Did you know that 63% of entrepreneurs in the US are over the age of 40? However, from what we've seen this afternoon, this is clearly not the case, as this trend is changing as we've seen lots of motivated young individuals who are already making strides.
The field of entrepreneurship has been growing and emerging as society has evolved, and as a student in high school, that is something I experience every single day. So now let's take a moment to thank Virtual Tech Guru for sponsoring $1,000 for Pitch Fest winners.
Now, let's introduce our next speaker, Mrs. Sweta Murthy, with the video.
Sweta Murthy. Meet Sweta Murthy, a first-generation American and daughter of South Asian immigrants from Tamil Nadu. Sweta graduated with honors from the Kelly School of Business and is now a successful business consultant. But that's not all she's accomplished. Sweta is also a TEDx speaker and has pitched award-winning recommendations to international CEOs and executives. And she's the first Asian and Indian American woman to represent Park Cities as a local title holder for the Miss America organization. As Miss Park Cities, Sweta advocates for Asian American and student mental health. Through speaking engagements, community partnerships, educational programming, and policy advocacy, she helps destigmatize mental health while encouraging diverse audiences to look beyond stereotypes. And now, in July, she will compete for the title of Miss Texas and the opportunity to become the first Indian American to represent the Lone Star State. I am excited for this opportunity to represent my community and make a difference. Sweta Murthy, a trailblazer and advocate for mental health and diversity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker for today, Sweta Murthy.
First, I would like to thank the ATA committee for allowing me to speak to you all today. I've learned not to introduce myself by one title because, like everyone else in this room, I am multifaceted and wear lots of hats, but nonetheless, here's my feeble attempt. I'm a recent graduate, consultant, coach, mentor, pageant title holder, mental health advocate, speaker, opera singer, climate change activist, and the most important, at least to my father, daughter. While all of these roles may seem very different at the surface, they all have one thing in common, and that is my entrepreneurial mindset. Even though I'm not an entrepreneur in the traditional sense, I've lived the life of an entrepreneur. To me, an entrepreneur is someone who takes a bold risk to be themselves in a world where the status quo is prevalent. Being an entrepreneur is not a title, but a mindset that is applied daily through perseverance, hard work, and a radical belief in oneself. I started to realize I was different at the age of 6. After all, when all of the kids in my class were reading, writing, and speaking full sentences, I couldn't even write my own name. There was one thing I could do really well. I could draw. Funny enough, I drew a self-portrait where I drew a crown at the top of my head. And at the age of 6, I knew who I was at my core. I wasn't influenced by people's expectations or what I thought the world wanted from me. Ever since then, I've been working really hard to return to my younger childlike self who dared to be different. So you may be wondering why I strayed away from my 6-year-old self. I lived most of my youth suppressing my unique quirks and talents. Being Indian and Asian, I felt the need to adhere to traditional paths of success. On top of that, being a woman, I was expected not to be loud or opinionated. I eventually reached a breaking point in college where I felt deeply unsettled with myself because I suppressed every ounce of my individuality to conform to what others expected of me. After going to therapy and focusing on my mental wellness, I started to reintroduce activities that brought me joy, even if they didn't fit the traditional definition of success. I no longer experienced anxiety or depression when I realized the world needed me to lean into my creativity, ingenuity, and bold personality. Therapy taught me that the world requires every individual to realize their own potential through leaning into the traits that make them very different. There are two key moments in my life where I've applied the entrepreneurial mindset while rivaling the status quo or what was expected of me. My first moment came at the age of 16 when I had the opportunity to give a TEDx speech. I had three options. A, decline the opportunity out of fear of judgment or failure. B, accept and speak on a digestible topic. C, speak on a controversial topic that was extremely timely and important with the risk of unpopularity. With much apprehension, I picked C, and it came with its challenges. The other speeches at the TEDx event were light, comical, and highly personal. In this feel-good ambiance, my talk was definitely the outlier, as it was a serious and scientific appeal for increased veganism as a solution to climate change. I didn't know what to expect the night when I would give my TEDx talk to a larger audience in rural northern Texas, where progressive ideas are contentious. I wondered if my talk would be met with warm applause or cold indifference. At that moment, I probably feared the audience's indifference the most. After my speech, some of the audience members lingered to talk with the speakers. For several moments, no one approached me. But then an older couple approached me and said, "We've been considering a vegetarian diet for some time now. Everything you said may have just given us the final push in the context of protecting the planet." My message had reached two people, and that was all that I needed to feel the power of persuasion. I could make a difference. The only way you make a difference in this world is to rival the status quo. You must be brave enough to go against what is expected to change the course of action. If this experience taught me anything, it is always good to create a bit of chaos, because that's when the real shift occurs. My second moment of entrepreneurialism is my current journey to Miss Texas. In July, I will compete for the opportunity to become the first Indian American Miss Texas. Last year, there were no Indian American delegates at the Miss Texas 2022 and Miss America 2023 competitions. With no existing representation or role models, I often questioned whether I could be Miss Texas or Miss America. I've never felt so isolated or felt like an outsider than when I decided to compete for the title of Miss Texas. Given that I'm the first Asian and Indian woman to be Miss Park Cities in its 8-year history, and the first Indian American to be the representative of the Miss Dallas organization in its 80-year history. Being the first is never, ever, ever easy. While fulfilling, being the first can be a lonely experience, as it is difficult to garner support or visibility. But despite these challenges and hurdles, I always come back to the question, if I'm not willing to be the first, then who will? There are so many barriers to break when it comes to diverse representation in media, politics, business, and pageantry. More so, there is a severe lack of South Asian representation in all of these mediums. My biggest criticism with the current representation of South Asians is that it's influenced by stereotypes. I have yet to see strong, authentic, individualistic representation of Asian Americans. This desire to break stereotypes, guided by my own challenges as a South Asian, inspired me to advocate for Asian American mental health. I'm not gonna lie and tell you that advocating for mental health and awareness and action within a community where there is stigma is easy. It is very difficult and uncomfortable at times. But through this process, I've learned to find comfort in the discomfort. I believe it is only when people are uncomfortable that they start to shift their perspectives and mindsets, both as an advocate and an audience member. The unsettling tensions, silence, and blank stares are all good things. Being the first is rarely about the applause, because applause breeds agreeableness, not change. Real, genuine work is done when people pause to catch their breaths and thoughts. There were many times I wanted to give up, thinking my efforts amounted to nothing. I equated success with applause, and that was the wrong mindset. I'm so glad that I never gave up, because as a result of my efforts, the city of Dallas passed May 10th, this past Wednesday, as AAPI Mental Health Day, and the state of Texas and Governor Abbott proclaimed the month of May as AAPI Heritage Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. Across my experiences, I hope that you can see that leaning into the uncomfortability and loneliness that comes with going against the status quo is what you need for your personal growth and what the world needs for tangible process. You have to be brave enough to not only experience, but embrace the discomfort, tension, silence, and criticism. If I listen to the naysayers or my internal limitations, I would not be in front of you today. I know for a fact my 6-year-old self would be proud of the woman I am today, and I hope you can also make your younger self proud by forging into the world with an entrepreneurial mindset that seeks to create the disruptive chaos the world so desperately needs. Thank you so much.